Today we are going to craft a blue axolotl. Before we start, let's take out our felting handle. 1 medium needle. 1 fine needle. What we are teaching everyone to make our small dolls. So we are providing these 2 types of needles. A medium needle is slightly longer than the fine needle. The tip of the medium needle is also slightly thicker than the fine needle. Both types of needle tips will have many small barbs. During the felting process, the barbs move the wool, causing the wool to interlock to achieve the felting effect. The medium needle felts faster and is used for shaping in the early and middle stages. The felting speed with fine needles is relatively slow. Used for later light felting to make the surface of the doll smooth and even. When making large or even larger works, the following will be used. Coarse needle, 3-pronged needle, 7-pronged needle. These types of needles have a particularly fast felting speed, so they are all used for making large works. The medium and fine needles provided for everyone make it easier to create small dolls. First time using a felting needle, we need to first take a needle out of the needle holder. New needles are coated with anti-rust oil to prevent the felting needle from rusting. Before we use it, you can use a paper towel to wipe off the rust-proof oil on the surface. The correct way to clean the needle is gently rub in the direction of the needle. After cleaning, it can be used together with the felting handle. When cleaning the needle, be sure not to wipe back and forth. This can easily lead to the needle accidentally piercing your finger, causing injury. If the needle is not used for a long time, avoid needle rusting. You can apply rust-proof oil or edible oil to the surface. After oiling, place it in the syringe for storage. Using the needle. When felting wool, the needle needs to be kept vertical to the wool being felted. Insert the wool in the direction of the needle tip. When pulling the needle out, it needs to be pulled out in the opposite direction of where the needle just entered. Then repeat. Continuously repeat. This will allow the wool to felt. When felting wool, make sure to apply force in the direction of the needle. Do not press the needle. Pressing the needle can easily lead to breakage. Also, do not lift the needle upward after inserting it into the wool. This can also cause the needle to break. Then take out our handle. Pull out the cork inside the handle. You can see a relatively large head. A relatively small head. One end of the needle with a hook stuck in the groove at the smaller end. Then we put our needle back into the handle. This loose way won't work. Push it in tightly with some force. This way it won't loosen and will be secured. Next, we need to prepare the workbench. In order to better demonstrate to everyone, the video uses a white foam pad. Before starting, you can put on finger cots. The shorter one is worn on our thumb. The longer one is worn on our index finger. Like this. For beginners, wearing finger cots is very necessary. It can prevent our needle from injuring our hands while felting. Once you are skilled, you can take off the finger cots to operate. In the instructional video, to help everyone see better, the demonstrator did not wear finger cots. For better distinction in the instructional video, we used the wooden handle to represent the fine needle, and the blue handle to represent the medium needle. In reality, you may receive 2 wooden handles. You can use 1 wooden handle to install the fine needle and 1 wooden handle to install the medium needle. For ease of distinction, you can make marks on the felting handle. There are two types of felting handles, wooden and plastic. The functions of both types are the same, it's just the material that is different. Today we are going to craft a blue axolotl. Let's look at its one-to-one blueprint. During the crafting process, you can refer to the blueprint for guidance. The structure of the blue axolotl and the reed axolotl is roughly the same. But the reed axolotl is sitting. The blue axolotl is standing. The tail is facing this way. The feet are underneath the body. First, let's craft its body, which is an oval shape. The top of the head will be narrower than the bottom of the body. The size of its body is the same as that of the red axolotl. We take out the baby blue wool. First, roll the wool to the size of the body. Make sure to roll tightly. Pinch both sides and roll inward. Press the wool with your thumb to prevent the wool from loosening. We first roll a wool ball slightly larger than the body. Check against the blueprint. Now it's about the same size as the blueprint. Then I'll roll it a bit more. It's roughly a bit larger than on the blueprint. Then my wool is to be taken here. Let's place our hands at the marked position. Pull both ends apart. Take a section of wool like this. Now we can roll it tightly again. Check if the amount of wool we took is appropriate. Here we roll it tightly, for one reason that we can check the amount of wool. For another reason that it will make the felting a bit faster. Tighten. Check against the blueprint. Now it's a bit larger than the blueprint. We can open up the wool. Take some wool from the back. Roll it tightly again. Check our size. A bit larger than the blueprint. This will do. If after taking the wool, you find it smaller than the blueprint, take out this baby blue wool again. Take a section like this undotted inside. Roll it and then compare the size. Adjust until it's slightly larger than the blueprint. Everyone should be careful when taking wool. It can be slightly larger than the blueprint, but it shouldn't be too much larger. If it's too much larger, it may cause the wool to be insufficient later. After we take the wool like this, set the blueprint aside. Take out the gray felting mat. Place the gray felting mat under the wool. This makes it convenient for us to felt later. Here, for your convenience, The gray felting mat will be replaced with a large foam mat like this. The effect of using it is the same. We place the wool on the felting mat. Then, make sure the medium needle is ready. Once ready, set it aside. Next, we need to roll the wool. After taking a section of wool, first, remove the surface impurities. After removing the impurities, start trapping the wool. Make sure to wrap the wool tightly. Do not wrap the wool loosely for felting. Otherwise, the wool will not easily adhere. The correct method is, we start wrapping from the flatter end of the wool. Make sure to wrap the wool tightly. We pinch one end of the wool and roll it inward. Use the thumb of the other hand to hold the wool. To prevent the wool from loosening, roll the wool tightly. Repeat the rolling process until all this section of wool is rolled together. When there's a little tail left, we place the wool on the felting mat. Fold the last bit of the tail upwards. Hold it with your hand to prevent the wool from loosening. Take out the medium needle. Now we need to felt the tail part to fix it in place. We poke the needle into the felting mat. At what angle to insert when poking? Withdraw at the same angle. We repeat. Poke several times to secure. Now we adjust the direction of the hand. Hook and secure the bottom of the wool ball. Be careful when poking. If unfamiliar, you can go slower. Avoid poking your fingers. After securing the bottom by poking, we adjust the direction of the hand again. We also poke and secure the top. If the needle is particularly close to the hand, we can poke the needle slower. Then we adjust the direction of the hand. Also felt the tail part on the front to fix it. After felting around once, our wool ball is initially fixed. The body of the axolotl is an oval shape. We can use our hands to pinch it into shape. First, we felt the protruding parts at the lower end to make them round. We lift this corner up. Use the needle to felt into the middle of the wool ball. After the sharp corner is felted in, it becomes an arc. We also felt the sharp corner down on this side. The adjusted shape is smooth. Pinch our wool ball. Top or bottom. Whichever side has relatively less wool will be the top. The top here is narrower, so it will be the top part. If the width is the same on both top and bottom, then we can stand the wool ball upright. Felt the edge circle of wool downwards. Felt the edge wool to the bottom. Then the upper part will become narrower. Our axolotl's body. It is narrower at the top, wider at the bottom. And now our wool ball is quite soft. Its general shape is already formed. We need to further tighten it. Continuously rotate the wool ball during felting to achieve an even effect. Now we need to make it into an elastic wool ball. The wool ball is still in a relatively soft state. It needs to be felted until it is elastic when squeezed. So during the felting process, frequently feel the softness of the wool ball. Avoid felting the wool ball too hard, because if it's felted too hard, it will be difficult to adjust if the shape is incorrect. After a period of felting, knead the wool ball again. Now the wool ball is slightly firmer than before. The needle marks on the surface are also becoming denser, but the wool ball is still a bit soft. It needs to be felted a bit more firmly. A tutorial video is edited, so the actual crafting time will be longer. Everyone needs to be patient. Continuously adjust the shape of the wool ball during felting. Avoid felting it out of shape. After a period of felting, we knead the wool ball again. Now the wool ball feels elastic when squeezed. After squeezing, it has some rebound. At this point, you can check the size against the blueprint to see if it fits. Let's take out the blueprint for comparison. Check its width and height against the size on the blueprint. We need it to be about the same size as on the blueprint, or it's okay if it's just a little bit larger. My wool ball is about the same size as on the blueprint. If it's about the same size, we can proceed to the next step. After comparing with the blueprint, my body is about the same size as the blueprint. This way, we can proceed to the next step. If we compare with the blueprint, and it's a bit smaller than on the blueprint, we can add a little more wool to it. Use a medium needle to tighten it. Adjust it to be about the same size as on the blueprint. If it's a bit larger than on the blueprint, you can continue to tighten it with a medium needle until it's about the same as on the blueprint. Now that our size is about the same as on the blueprint, switch the medium needle to a fine needle and lightly tighten the surface. Because now that we're switching to a fine needle, we need to felt the wool ball to be a bit more elastic, make it relatively firmer. While felting, also keep pinching the wool ball to avoid making the body too hard. Felt for a while and then knead it. The wool ball is still a bit soft now. We need to continue to felt it tighter. The surface of the wool ball is relatively tight now. The middle is soft. Press down until there is some rebound. Because the wool ball is not too hard now. If there are any shape issues, you can make some adjustments. Let's take out the blueprint and compare. The wool ball is slightly smaller than the blueprint now. This is also acceptable. If it's much smaller than the blueprint, add more wool and felt it tighter. If it's a bit larger, just felt the wool ball tighter, adjust it to be relatively smaller than the blueprint. This size will do. Now the size of the wool ball is ready for the next step. We are slightly smaller than the blueprint, because the next step requires covering its surface with a layer of torn wool. After doing this way, its size will match the blueprint. Our wool ball is about the same as the blueprint. It's okay if it is slightly smaller than the blueprint, because the next step we will add another layer of wool to its surface. If it's still a bit large, you can felt it tighter. As for laying the wool, we need to take a bit more wool. We need to tear the wool apart. After the body felting is done, we need to work on the surface of its body with a layer of torn wool. This will help cover the wool texture underneath. Make it look more refined. When tearing the wool, be careful not to tear the wool horizontally, because tearing wool horizontally makes it difficult to separate. The fibers of the wool are hard to shorten. Also, do not hold your hands too close together when tearing. This also makes it difficult to tear the wool apart. The correct method is to hold the wool vertically. Hold both sides of the wool with both hands. Pull it apart. Overlap again after separating. You can rotate the wool with one hand. The wool on both sides is overlapped together. Separate the wool again. Overlap it together once more. Then repeat. Both thumbs can slightly separate the wool. By repeating this, we can shorten the fibers of the wool. Now that we have torn the wool, it looks like this. Take a small portion off. The wool laid on the wool ball should be evenly thick. When we tighten it by felting, it won't destroy the shape of our wool ball. So let's take a look now. In areas with less wool, we can see the skin underneath. In places where the color is more intense, it indicates more wool. We adjust these thicker areas. Gently separate them with your hands. Just gently pull. Tension, gently pull outward. Now the thickness is relatively even. The side is a thin piece like this. Take out the body part. Cover the entire body with a layer of this wool sheet. First, we place it in a position. Use the fine needle to lightly felt the wool sheet onto its surface. Here, when we felt, we must do it lightly. Felting too deeply will cause the wool to be pulled into the sphere. This will result in no coverage effect. The areas where we have laid the wool should not show the wool fiber's texture of our sphere. Here, we must lightly felt. This area is where we have laid the wool. You can see that the areas where we have laid the wool have a relatively smoother texture. Continue to cover these areas without wool. Cover it with this kind of thin wool sheet. Use the same method to take some wool. Pull into an evenly thick wool sheet. Try to add a thin layer. Avoid making the sphere too large again. It looks a bit thin here. After we cover with wool sheet, we can still see through the texture underneath. We can partially add a small amount of wool on top. We will continue to add in this way until the entire sphere is covered with a thin wool sheet. Now the entire body is covered with a layer of torn wool. We can trim the surface wool fluff. Of course, if you like the fluffy feel, you don't need to trim. The body is now completed. Look at each side of it. Our eyes. One is a directly inserted eye accessory. One is felted into a curved shape with wool. First, let's install this eye. Then make the eye on the other side. The positions of the eyes are from the top of the head down. The eyes will be relatively wide apart. The distance from the cheeks will be relatively close. Before installing the eye, first find the position of the eye. We choose one side as its front. A little distance down from the top of the head. Here we can install the eye. Our eyes are slightly distanced from both cheeks. You can first fix it here. We use a medium needle to poke a small hole deep. After poking deeply, gently rotate it a bit. Be sure to rotate gently to avoid breaking our needle. Then take out the eye. Insert it into the small hole in the eye socket. This way we have installed one eye. This closed eye is level with the position of the inserted eye. When we are felting, we can pay more attention. Check if the eye is tilted too high or too low. We need to observe more and adjust in time. We take out the black wool. Take a small strand of wool from its side. Roll it tightly in your hand. Fold one end a little and twist it tightly. This way, we get a thin string to make its other eye. After the line is done, we take out the body. Find the position of this eye. On the same horizontal line. The distance to the cheeks on both sides should also be the same, then on this line. First, make a mark on it. Gently poke it. The distance from the eyes to the edges should be the same on both sides. This side is roughly at this position. See that the distance on this side is the same as the distance on the other side. On a horizontal line. Move down a little. After finding the position of this eye, poke the line end into the small hole. After poking the line end in, we let the line go upwards, presenting a curved shape. After poking for a while, we cut off the tail part. Here, you can leave a little more at the corner of the eye than on this side. Tighten the line end at the corner of the eye by felting downwards. Now that the position of this eye is determined, use the fine needle to felt the eye deeply in. So that the line can adhere firmly to the surface and not float on the surface. This way, the eye won't easily loosen. After felting the eye well, it looks like this. If the line of the eye is still a bit thick when we felt, and you want it finer, felt the edges deeply in. This will bring the surface wool into the head. This eye is now completed. For this direct insertion eye, applying some glue at its base will make it more stable. However, due to international shipping reasons, you need to prepare the glue yourself. This completes the eye section. The position of the mouth is very close to the eyes. It is at a horizontal position with the eyes. They are parallel to each other. The width of the mouth will be wider than both eyes. Its shape is symmetrical. The sides are curved downward. The middle arches upward. So we need to pay attention to our shape. Take out the honey pink colored wool. Take a small strand from one side of it. Place it in the palm of your hand. Roll it into a thin line to make its mouth. After rolling, take out our head. As for our mouth, a little distance diagonally below the outer eye corner. Insert the needle and then poke the line end in. And now, this section below the eye. The mouth curves downward, so the line needs to go down a bit here. At the inner eye corner, it goes up again. The mouth here is in an arched shape. When we haven't determined the entire position of the mouth, first use the fine needle to lightly poke the surface to fix it. Then go down from the inner eye corner on this side. The position of the outer eye corner is here. Check if the distance between the outer eye corners on both sides is about the same. Look at the mouth. Are the lowest points on both sides in the corners of the mouth in a horizontal position? If this side is wider, then retract it a bit. After it's about right, use scissors to cut off the excess part. Insert the trimmed line end into the corner of the mouth. Once the approximate position is determined, we use the fine needle to deeply felt it along the line. Fix the line of our mouth in place. After felting like this, our mouth is completed. When making the mouth, we can also refer to the blueprint ourselves. The axolotl has a total of 6 antennae, 3 on each side. We complete it with 2 colors. It's this kind of triangle. The size of these 6 is the same, so we can make them using the same method. First, we make the light-colored part, then make the dark-colored area. Let's first make the light-colored parts of the antennae. We take out a light blue channel stem. We fold this one in half. Fold again. Now we fold twice. We fold a third time. After folding, we cut the folded parts with scissors. After cutting like this, we get 8 channel stems of the same length. The antennae require only 6 of them. First, take one and fold it in half. After folding, there is a single piece at each end. We take one of them, wrap it around the other at this position. Fix it. After pinching it, use scissors here to trim the fuzz. After trimming the base, it will be inserted into the head for fixing later. Turn to the folded part on this end. We need to trim it into a triangle, so the scissors should cut at an angle. Then rotate the channel stem. Trim each side. The trimmed channel stem looks like a cone. Look, this is the trimmed part. And this is the end that inserts into the head. One light-colored part of the antenna is completed. We use the same method to complete the remaining 5. Take another one and fold it in half. Twist one end onto the other. After twisting, trim the lower part. Then cut the folded end into a triangular cone. This completes the second one. Continue making the remaining ones. Now the 6 light-colored antenna parts are completed. Let's set them aside for now. Take out a dark blue channel stem. Fold this one in half. Fold it in half again. Fold it in half again. It has been folded a total of 3 times. Cut off the folded parts. After cutting, there will be 8 channel stems of the same length. Use only 6. Set the other to a side. Fold the remaining 6 in half. After folding these 6 in half, we can assemble them. We leave one. Take out another light-colored part. Glue the 2 parts together. The bonding requires this kind of hot melt glue stick. Use a lighter to melt it for use. If you have a hot glue gun, you can also use it with the glue stick. Here, I'll demonstrate using a lighter. The hot melt glue becomes very hot after melting. Be sure to pay attention to safety and be careful not to burn your hands. Melt the glue stick. Then apply the glue to one side of the back. Place it in the gap. After gluing, roll the dark parts on both sides inward. Fold it inward like this. On this side, fold it towards the center as well. Make it feel like it's wrapping around the light-colored part. Avoid glue showing from the front, which affects aesthetics. So apply it on the back side. One antenna is completed. Take out one light-colored and one dark-colored. The remaining 5 antennae, we assemble them together in the same way. Heat the glue stick. Then apply it on the back of one side. Place it in the gap. Roll the dark-colored parts on both sides inward. Fold it like this. Fold this side as well. Be careful when folding because there is iron wire inside. Be careful not to poke your fingers. The second antenna is completed. Encase it excess glue. Use scissors to trim it lightly. Be careful to cut a little slower. Do not cut the fuzz on the channel stem. The third antenna is completed. Complete the remaining antennae in the same way. All 6 antennae are assembled. Install the antennae on the head. Now let's set them aside for a moment. For their assembly onto the head, first, poke a hole on its head. After poking, it's easier to insert the plug into the head. Use a medium needle to poke a small hole. Let's first complete the installation on this side. The position of the first antenna is directly above the eye. Check if the distance is about right. Use the needle to deeply poke from above. After deep poking, gently rotate the needle. Try to rotate it near the base. Be sure not to use too much force here, to avoid breaking our needle. Withdraw the needle at the same angle it went in. Take an antenna and insert it into the small hole. Once this is done, let's find its second position. As for the second position, it's a little distance next to the first one. After confirming it's in a straight line, deeply poke. Take an antenna and insert it into the small hole. The third position is a little distance next to the second one. Deeply poke along a horizontal line, gently twist and then pull out the needle. Insert the antenna. Now the three on this side are installed. Let's take another look at this side. The position of these three should be symmetrically aligned with the three on the side. This is directly above the eye. We also find the position directly above this eye. It is parallel to the eye. Confirm the position and then deeply poke. After deeply poking, gently twist the needle. Insert the antenna. Now the first one on this side is completed. See, the installed antennae are all on a horizontal line. Then find the second horizontal position. Also a little next to the first one. Then a little bit upwards. Poke it deeply like this. The last one is a little below this one, also next to the second towards the bottom. Confirm the position and then deeply poke. Gently rotate it a bit. Insert the antenna. Then check if the positions are quite symmetrical. Check if the antennae are all on a horizontal line. Now the installation positions of the antennae are confirmed. Look at the side. Back. The other side. First take out the 6 antennae. You will see there are 6 small holes on the head. Poke them again. To make it easier to insert the antennae later. After poking these 6 small holes, set the head aside first. Apply glue to the bases of the antennae and insert them into the small holes. This makes it easier to fix them onto the head and prevent our antennae from falling off. We take out the hot melt glue and melt it. Wrap a little glue around the base. Then insert it into the small hole. Continue with the second one. And the remaining ones, we adhere them to the head in the same way. After we have glued all 6 antennae on, we can let them cool down a bit. The antennae are now straight. They need to be bent backward a little to present a curved curvature. This side is bent. This side is straight. Bend this side a bit too. Antennae installation completed. What about the axolotl? It slims. Its 2 hands are the same size, with a certain length. The finger's end will be slightly wider. The arm area will be slightly thinner. The 2 feet are in a standing position and in a flat and long shape. Viewed from the bottom, it is an oval shape. The lengths of the 2 feet are the same, so be sure to pay attention when felting whether the size of the 2 hands and 2 feet is the same. Adjust if it's different. Make sure to refer to the blueprint while crafting. Roll the wool to the size of a hand or foot. Avoid making it too big while felting. Now, let's take out the baby blue wool. Roll it to the size of a hand according to the blueprint. Because the hand is a long cylindrical shape, let's first roll it into a cylindrical shape. Look at the width of the hand on the blueprint. When rolling, make it slightly wider than on the blueprint, and the length should be a bit longer than on the blueprint, but not too much longer, about up to here. Now I take the wool of hand to here. Remove the excess part. After taking a section of wool like this, we roll it up again. Check if the wool you took is suitable. Mine is much larger than the blueprint. I can take some more off. Roll it again. slightly larger than the blueprint, a little longer in length. This is how the wool is taken off. We roll the wool to the size of the hand on the blueprint. Then, gently tear it apart. Just make the fibers a little shorter. No need to tear it too short. After tearing it like this, roll the wool into a cylindrical shape. After rolling it, fold the middle part in half. Now we see this side is the wool fluff. This side is the folded part. This side is where our fingers are. This side is where we need to connect to the body. Place it on the felting mat. Use the fine needle to fix it. After initially fixing it, tighten it further. After felting it, the vertical side is relatively narrow. The front side of the hand is relatively wide. From the side, it looks oval-shaped. Keep this part of the wool fluff to make it easier for us to attach it to the body. If during the felting process, the length of the hand gets longer, we can stand it up and felt it from top to bottom with the fingers end pointing upwards. This will effectively shorten it. If it becomes too short, you can rub it in your hands to make it longer. Continuously refer to the blueprint during the process to check if the shape and size are correct. Now the distance between the fingers holding the wool is too short, so felt slowly. To avoid poking your fingers, look, this is the front. This is how it looks from the top. This is the side view of the hand. This way, We have completed one hand. After finishing, we can refer to the blueprint, check if our size is correct. If it's small, add more wool. If it's large, tighten it a bit more. Use the same method to take the same amount of wool. Gently tear it apart and roll it into a cylindrical shape. Then tighten it. After tightening it this way, we take out the first hand. Compare if the sizes of the two hands are the same, if the one made later is smaller than the first one. You can add a little wool on the surface and tighten it. If it's larger, use the needle to tighten it. If much larger, trim it with scissors. Then lay a thin layer of this torn wool on the surface. Lay it on the surface and then tighten by felting. Now both hands are the same size. This way we have finished both hands. We wrap the wool to the size of a foot. Then gently tear it apart. After slightly tearing it apart, we'll roll it up. Fold it in half from the middle part. Use the fine needle to tighten and fix it. After our initial fixation, as the foot is shorter than the hand, when felting, you can felt downwards from the toes end, shorten the length a bit. Tilt this end with the wool fluff and give it a little poke. This end still needs to leave this kind of wool fluff to make it easier for us to attach it to the body. So here, when we felt from this end with the wool fluff, just slightly bring the wool down a bit to avoid the wool fluff being felted together. Like this, continue to tighten it into this shape. After tightening it like this, compare it with the size on the blueprint. After adjusting to the appropriate size, we will use the same method to make the second foot. After tightening, take out the first foot made for comparison. This one made later is slightly smaller. Let's add a little bit of wool to it. Add a small amount. Avoid adding too much at once. After tightening, compare it with the first one. Now the size is about right. Now we have both feet done. 4 limbs are now completed. Next, we can proceed with the installation. Installation of the hands. We can take a look. Both hands are placed diagonally upwards like this. The positions of the two hands are symmetrical on both sides of the body. The positions are also on a horizontal line. The feet are the same. The installation positions are at the same horizontal line on both sides of the body. The feet are faced outward. When installing, you can look more at the appearance on the blueprint. Let's first take out the slightly longer hands. Both hands are raised upwards, so we angle it upwards and felt it onto the body. This is how it looks from the side. Use the fine needle to felt the wool fluff onto the body. This way you can connect the hands of the body. When felting, you can keep felting up to this part to make the lines here smoother. Because if we only felt in this one place, there will be an edge here and it won't look good. In this area is on the upper and lower sides of the hand. Insert the needle from the edge of the hand. Felt into the body. Serves as a fixing function. After this hand is installed, then take out the other hand. After both hands are installed, they are symmetrical. Both hands are raised upwards like this. Look, now the hands are felted. After connecting, look at its sides. Both sides are upward. The heights are also consistent. Next, let's install its feet. We take out one foot. Pull apart the wool fluff at the bottom. Pull it aside. Make it into this shape. Like a small umbrella. Then we take this little foot. Place it on the outside of its body. Aim it towards the front under the body. Approximately here. Use the fine needle to felt the wool fluff onto the body. We will felt a circle around the foot. Felt it a few more times here. Insert the needle from the edge of the foot. Then, felt it into the body. This way you can felt the wool from the foot onto the body, achieving a connecting effect. After felting and fixing, we gently shake it a bit. Check if its connection is loose. If it's relatively tight, then it's fine. If it still wobbles easily, we need to felt it a few more times. Now, it's relatively stable here. Install the other foot as well. For the other foot, spread out the wool fluff here. Place it on the other side. Make sure both feet are symmetrical. The front and back positions should be on a horizontal line. Continue to tighten it. After felting, check if it is securely connected. Now both feet are installed. Take a look at the sides. Next, we will make its tail. The tail is long and slender. The end is relatively wide. The tip is relatively thin. It is a shape that tapers from thick to thin. Take a look from the inside. After the tail is made, we will then make its tail fin. The tail is placed to one side. So from the front, we can also see part of its tail. Take a look from above. It is attached to the body like this. When felting the tail, we also need to pay attention to the blueprint. Avoid making the tail too big or too long. We take out the baby blue wool. Roll out wool to the size of its tail. Let's take a look. The tail is the length from the middle of its body to the tip of the tail. And the width. We can take a look at this area. Its width. The part connecting to the body will be slightly wider. Then it gradually tapers to the tip of the tail. Let's first roll out this width. Then it can be slightly wider than the blueprint. Roll it diagonally to one side. When rolling, be sure to fix the place you are holding now. Use a twisting method to prevent the wool from loosening. Take a look at our tail. Length from the body to the tip of the tail. Mine is slightly longer here. If there's a bit too much, we'll take some wool off. Roll again. about slightly wider than her tail. This way, the wool for the tail is ready. Let's take out wool the size of the tail. Hair it slightly. After tearing, roll it into a cylindrical shape first. Fold a little bit of wool at one end. Use the fine needle to felt and fix it. After felting and fixing, we rub it a bit. One end of it needs to be made into this pointed shape, then gradually become a thicker shape. We will keep the wool fluff on this end to make it easier for us to attach it to the body. Like this, we tighten it by felting. For the tip of the tail, we will felt it downwards. Also tighten the tip by felting. After slightly tightening it, we will felt a curvature into the tail. Hold both ends. Then felt the middle part. This will give it an upward curvature. Let's continue to tighten it. After tightening this way, the tail is finished. For the wool fluff at this end, we can spread it out like this. This makes it easier for us to attach it to the body later. After spreading it out, it looks like this. We take out the body. Our tail is on one side of its back. Turn it around to see. It's facing this direction. Let's check its position. It's located on the lower part of the back's midline. After finding the position, we first do a preliminary felting to fix it. Slightly tilt to the side. Felt and fix. If we need the tail to bend this way, we also need to felt this part and attach it to the body. Felt this part slightly towards this side. This way, we can better fix the direction of the tail. When installing the tail, we can also take a look at our tail. When laying it flat like this, can it provide support to the body, so that its body can stand on our table? Also adjust its angle. After we have felted it well, its connection marks are very light, almost not noticeable. Let's take a look at its side. The connected tail allows us to stand the axolotl directly on the tabletop. It serves as a support. So if your axolotl is finished, but the tail cannot serve as a support, it means you need to adjust its angle a bit more. You can lower it a little. Then try to adjust it like this. Then we have assembled the tail. Next, make the tail fin. It starts from the middle of its back, extends along the tail to the butt. The position of sticking is wrapped around the midline of the tail. Making the tail fin, we need to use this dark blue channel stem. Let's take one out first, then take out the axolotl we made. From its back, a little above the tail, place one end of the channel stem on top. Now we need to follow the shape of the tail, equivalent to making an edge for it. At this place, the tail has a bend. Then there is an upward curvature. We need to fit the channel stem. Must be tightly. Follow the body's outline. To avoid it being too straight. In that way, there will be gaps that cannot be glued. We fit it. When reaching the tip of the tail, bend it like this. Then confirm again whether the front part can fit with our tail. Then the lower part of the tail. We also fit it tightly until our tail is completely fit at this lower point. Let's check again. Fit it completely again. Check if our length is sufficient. There should be no gaps like this in the middle. If there are gaps, it means our channel stem is too short. We measure to this point. We can leave it a little longer. Leave it to this position. Make a mark here. Pinch it with your hand. Cut it with scissors. After cutting, we get a piece of channel stem like this. We put it back on the body again to check. This length is fine. Look at the position a little above the tail on the back. After confirming the position, we hold this place. Use hot melt glue to bond the top end. Here I will use a glue gun to demonstrate for everyone. We lift this end up. Apply a little hot melt glue along its path. Try not to apply too much when applying. Avoid excess glue as it can affect the appearance. Then along the path of its tail, we look at where the line is positioned. We apply the glue where the line is positioned. Take a look here. Its line goes from here. We apply a little from here at the middle position of the bottom. At this part of the tail end, we apply a little more glue. Use scissors to cut off the excess part here. The part just below the tail doesn't need to be too long. Let's take another look. If there is a bit of iron wire exposed, you can trim it. For the parts with excess glue, you can wait for it to cool down and then cut it off with scissors. Be careful when cutting. Do not cut the fuzz on the channel stem. After sticking it well, let's take a look. From the front, you can see this part of the tail. Take another look at its underside. This way, the tail fin is completed. Next, we will make the squid. Use a macaron pink channel stem to make a squid. We will align one end with our blueprint. Bend it to a length slightly shorter than on the blueprint. After bending, we fold this part up. After folding, there is a sharp corner here. We hold it like this. Now close it up. We wrap it from this end to the other end. First, wrap it completely once. Slowly move upwards. Wrap this area evenly once. Now it has been wrapped to the top here. Notice that one end of the squid is pointed. One end is relatively wide. Narrow at the top, wide at the bottom. The end wrapped around too. Make it the top. Then we need to wrap it wider at the bottom. Wrap back diagonally from this point. Take another look, slightly slanted downwards. Avoid wrapping another circle here. Wrap back diagonally from the side. To this end here. Wrap another circle. You need to hold it lightly with your hand. Don't let this piece shift out. When you get to this point, we wrap back at this last place. Take another look. Here we wrap back a little more. Wrap 2 more circles. If it's a bit loose here, we can use our hands to fix it. Make its length always about the same as the length of the squid on the blueprint. We wrap the remaining section of the channel stem a few more circles. When there's still a little tail left on top, we tighten it. We adjust it again. Now it's wrapped into this shape. Slightly adjust it with your hands. For example, there's a slightly thicker part in the middle here. pinch it down like this. It's equivalent to gathering the channel stem downwards. After adjusting our shape, it's roughly narrow at the top and wide at the bottom. We use scissors to slightly trim the fuzz on both sides to make it look more like a distinct cone shape. After trimming like this, the shape will be more distinct. Now we can use a lighter to gently burn the fuzz on the surface of our squid. When burning, gently move the flame close to it and sway it a bit. Do not keep burning one spot, it will completely burn out. Everyone should be careful when using a lighter. Now, after we have burned the top part, slightly burn the bottom part as well. The areas burned with the lighter will have a clearer outline. This bottom part, we can slightly pinch with our hands to give it a slight indentation. Then use the lighter to slightly burn here. This is the place where we will attach the tentacles. Now, after finishing the body, it looks like this. Look, its bottom is a circular shape like this. Now, let's make its tentacles. Take another muck or on-pink channel stem. As for the length of the tentacles, we can refer to the blueprint, approximately to the edge of its body. This length, we bend it from here. After completing, two of these together make one tentacle. We match the length to the top here and then bend. This is a complete tentacle. As for the length of the second one, it can be slightly different from the first one. It doesn't have to be exactly the same length. A little longer is also fine. Then bend the third one again. After bending, it should look like this. We bring them together. Twist this end at the angle of the first one. Then we twist it to fix it together. Use scissors to cut off the excess part. After cutting, let's take a look. A channel stem looks like this. Now we need to use a lighter Burn the fuzz on it. You can burn a little slower. Avoid burning too much at once. The angle can be slightly opened outward to burn. After burning, we take its 3 tentacles. Put together downwards like this. We slightly adjust the tentacles because they has a certain curvature and present a wave-like shape, like this. Bend upwards and then downwards. Adjust all 3 tentacles. After adjusting, we can slightly burn the top fuzz. Burn the thicker parts more. This completes the tentacles. Now combine the body with its tentacles. We use hot melt glue here. Apply the hot melt glue in the groove at the bottom. Then, place our tentacles on top and wait for them to cool. After cooling, we can also slightly adjust the shape of the tentacles. After installation, its overall shape is completed. Next, we install the 2 eyes. We take out the eyes for installation. The eyes can be inserted into the gaps in its body. The gaps between the 2 iron wires can be used to insert the eyes. After the eyes are installed, our squid is completed. If you want the eyes to be more secure, you can also apply glue to the bases of the eye plugs. Now we will attach the squid to the axolotl. Let's take a look. Since we are placing it at an angle between its two hands, it can be slightly tilted. Then reveal the axolotl's facial features. After determining the position, we can apply a bit of hot melt glue to its back. Adhere it between the two hands on the body. Once it is adhered, we check if it is stable. Now it is quite stable. And just like that, our axolotl is complete.